What are Chicago Bears supposed to do at safety this offseason? The safety room is emptying. Who comes back? Who stays? And where can the Bears look for replacements? And to fill the safety room, is the answer in the draft, or is the answer going to be in free agency? Let's find out. Join me on the other side. Welcome to the Bears Huddle podcast. I'm Aaron W. James. This is your UK take on all things Chicago Bears. Guys, we're going to look at the safety issue in Chicago. Obviously, the last video we brought out on the channel was should the Bears go for Emmanuel McNeil-Warren at 25 in the forthcoming NFL draft. And obviously on the channel, as the draft gets closer, we will be looking more into the draft and looking at all those prospects and, the positions the Bears do need to strengthen, especially on the defensive side of the ball, the defensive line, the edge rushers, safeties, etc., even perhaps linebackers as well, given the fact that the Bears may cut Tremaine Edmonds to save up some cap space. Now, we know that the two primary safeties in the Bears safety room are out of contract at the end of this season, which obviously, once the new league season starts in March, we'll obviously be without Brisker and Bayard. Now, we know that of these players, about mostly, and has talked about his desire to bring Bayard back to Chicago for the 2026 NFL season. I mean, Bayard not only had an exceptional season last year, leading the league in interceptions, but also was a leader on the park. He is a guy who leads from the front. And, taking Bayard out of your roster, taking Bayard out of your organization, deprives your team of a real leader. So, I'd look for Bayard to return somewhere around about the $7-8 million mark for a year, 2 years maybe. But look, we know that Ryan Poles has an awful lot of work to do ahead of making any signing any of our free agents and signing any of the free agents in the NFL. Now, look, we know that the free agent class this year, not only in the safety area, but across the NFL, it is not a particularly strong free agent class. We know that. We also know the draft class coming out of college this year is not a particularly strong draft class as well. There are certain positions, obviously, that do carry strength, but overall, there isn't a great deal of strength in it. Now, the stories that were doing the rounds this morning on a number of publications and a number of sites, and obviously coming out of the likes of Tom Pelissero, Adam Schefter, and others, is that there may be an increase in the number of trades before free agency as teams look to strengthen and get players in before free agency hits. The likes of, obviously, of Max Crosby been ahead of that list. Crosby certainly someone who has been spoken about as being a potential trade target for a number of teams in the NFL, including the Chicago Bears. Now, we look at the free agent list for the Bears for that safety position. And you look at it and you can't deny that, everyone on that list is on their way out. And as I've said, the Bears do need to create cap space before they can do any work around, bringing in new signings or re-signing anyone. Obviously Kevin Byard, like I said, is the person who is most, I think, wanted back by the Bears in 2026 . But Jaquan Brisker, interesting questions over his future. Now, Brisker, had his first full healthy season last season and was fantastic, particularly in that playoff game against the Rams. He was absolutely outstanding. But, the cost of bringing back Jaquan Brisker, you're going to be looking at a substantial amount of money to bring him back to the Bears, over $10 million a season, and that's a conservative estimate. We'll look a bit in detail a little bit more at that. CJ Gardner-Johnson, another one who is out of contract. Now, is it the Bears want to bring back CJ Gardner-Johnson to give Dennis Allen those options, and especially obviously given the fitness concerns over Kyler Gordon? Now, I know CJ Gardner-Johnson is listed as a safety, but he can play obviously in the nickel, he can play as a cornerback, he can play in a number of positions in that defensive backfield. Jalen Jones, not so worried. Jonathan Owens, I think, will be a cheap possible to bring back. I think he will be someone the Bears probably do look to bring back on a limited, smaller time deal. I don't think there's going to be a huge market for Jonathan Owens, out there. The safety market is saturated. There are an awful lot of safeties out of contract at the end of this season. We know that. If you go on Spotrac, you can see it's a massive, massive list of options, which may actually go in the Bears' favour. in terms of keeping the value of certain players down. Now, unlikely, though, that Jaquan Brisker will be kept down in terms of value. Brisker is a strange one, isn't he? I mean, look, Jaquan Brisker was great last season. Absolutely great. Played brilliantly. He stayed fit. Now, one of the big concerns you've got over Jaquan Brisker is the guy's concussion history, the guy's injury history. He's missed an awful lot of games. Do you want to really tie up a lot of your money in your safety room in a player that you maybe can't rely on long term? There are other options. I had mentioned, you see franchise tag him, which would be around about 20 million. You then look to do a long-term deal with him to reduce that cap hit. Or, if you can't do that long-term deal, you look to trade him. But you then risk the trade market there. So it's a real, risk for Ryan Poles. I'm glad I'm not having to make those decisions. You look at the list of free agent safeties that there currently are will be on the market. And obviously Kobe Bryant tops that list. So Super Bowl champion, a quality player. A really, really talented player, Kobe Bryant. But, I think he is well out of the Bears' price range. Market value is around 14.2. You're probably looking at a lot north of that in terms of what he'll finally get on average salary. Brian Cook from Kansas City, again, 14.19. Cam Curl. I know a lot of people have mentioned Cam Curl, the guy who intercepted Caleb Williams' pass, as a potential target for the Bears. But you're looking at 10.044, as an average, which I think, is probably going to go higher. Again, realistically, are you going to get Curl for any less than you would get Brisker? And then you've got to do a kind of judge, is Curl massively better than Brisker? Is Brisker comes in knowing the system, knowing what is needed? So do you then commit, if you're going to commit the money for Cam Curl, might as well do you commit it for Jaquan Brisker? That's the question. Jalen Thompson out of Arizona, Jalen Hawkins out of New England, Kevin Byard, obviously our own Kevin Byard, Geno Stone out of Cincinnati, Reed Blankenship out of Philadelphia, Donovan Wilson and Tony Adams, Dane Belton out of New York, Nick Cross out of Indianapolis. They're kind of the options down the sort of top 12 value options in this, top 13, top 14 options in this current safety class. So you're looking at some good options there, but it's money, it's expense. And when the Bears need pass rushers cost money. Now, if you're not going to go draft for the pass rushers, or you're not going to go cheap for the pass rusher, say you are going to look at a Max Crosby or a Trey Hendrickson or even a Khalil Mack, you're looking at big money there. So can you really afford to tie up a lot of money in the likes of Kobe Bryant, for example, or the likes, the likes of Nick Cross or someone like that? Probably not. It is a difficult question that Ryan Poles does need to address. Now, obviously, you can kick the can down the line. You can sort of tie money, put money into signing bonuses and obviously kick salary down the line and gamble on the NFL salary cap massively increasing. But then you sort of make a rod for your own back, don't you? Because what if you put 60, 70, 80, 90 million further down for another year, you're tying it up straight away. So you then got to in that season kick more money down the road. So who knows? But it's a difficult market. It is a very, very difficult market. Now, do the Bears perhaps come away from that? And yes, they bring back Kevin Byard. Yes, they bring back CJ Gardner-Johnson. Perhaps he's listed one of the cheaper options. He's brought back. He can fill in at safety. Jonathan Owens is brought back. You then look in the draft. You then look at possible draft prospects. Now, the top 3 draft prospects coming out of college are Caleb Downs, Dylan Thieneman, and Emmanuel McNeil Warren that we featured the other day on the video, guys. If you haven't seen that, please check it out. Now, Caleb Downs, obviously out of Ohio State, is the top prospect, ranked number 1, ranked 92. All Scouts average of 3.9. All Scouts average position is 1. He's 6 foot. He's 205 pounds. He's a junior. He has a 4.45 40. He plays the safety position the way it was designed to be played in the modern NFL, with versatility, intelligence, and on the ability to handle any assignment on a defensive side of the ball. Caleb Downs is a top level player, but he's probably going to go quite high. Now, will Caleb Downs be there at 25? Do the Bears want to go in the first round to safety, or are they then looking, if they can't get it done in free agency and at the edge, looking at a defensive lineman or an edge rusher in that first round? So it's a different, a Caden McDonald, a TJ Parker, someone like that, for example. Dylan Thieneman is another one. He is All Scouts average position ranked 7th. He's 6 foot. He's 205 pounds. He's a junior out of Oregon. Runs a 4.44 40. Thieneman is the kind of safety who walks into a defensive meeting room from day one and immediately earns his keep. This is a plug and play starter. In fact, all three of these guys, Caleb Downs, Dylan Thieneman, and Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, all listed as plug and play starters from day one. So, you're looking at good options there. But like I said, do the Bears realistically want to commit a day one pick to a safety? Are there better positions to commit to? You're then looking beyond that, you're looking at Michael Taff, AJ Hawley, Kamari Ramsey, Zakee Wheatley, Genesis Smith, Bishop Fitzgerald, Jalen Kilgore. That's your top 10 coming out of there. I mean, you could go with, if you went someone like Zakee Wheatley, I've seen him in the second or third round at Penn State. He's a guy who was obviously came from the same college as Jaquan Brisker. So is he someone that look at? He a quality player, 6'3", 201 pounds. Had some pretty good numbers in college. A good quality safety. In terms of where he's at. On a defensive ranking on Draft Buzz, he's right at 80%, rated at 72.3 with the quarterback. When the quarterback is targeted, 77% on tackling, 91% on run defense, a good run stopper. Again, that's something the Bears do need to look at. His draft projection is the third round. So this could be a guy that the Bears could pick up in the third round if they don't want to commit to a safety in the first round, like one of these three guys. I think, you're probably looking, all three of these guys will be first round picks. So it is a gamble there, but the Bears will need to address this safety position, and some serious mathematics is going to have to go on between now and the free agency and the draft to look at how the Bears fill that safety room. And look, I'm glad I'm not Ryan Poles. I really am glad I am not Ryan Poles. Guys, let me know your thoughts. Who would you go for? Where do you think it's best to pick? A free agent, re-sign our own guys, or look in the draft? Thank you for watching the Bears Huddle podcast. Bear down.